And good afternoon, YouTube fans. Admiral Preparedness here. Got a few things to cover today. As far as your long-term food storage, we always say around this neck of the woods where I'm from is eat what you store what you eat. And in saying that, we've got our baby back barbecue sauce, sweet baby braise, gourmet sauce. This stuff here will last in a storage shelf, pantry, or long-term storage location in your home very, very long time. You just need to remember when you crack that seal and you use it for the first time, you're going to have to refrigerate it. So use what you can right then and there, put it in the fridge and eat it. This one here has best when purchased date on label. And as far as that goes, the Best Buy date on this one here is, or Best Buy use, 20 January 2018. So 2018, that's a year from this coming month. The matter of fact, the 20th of January, I might just keep this as a 1 year anniversary for the current inauguration proceedings that are about to occur here in the United States. This type of material is excellent because the preservatives are very, very small. The nutritional facts are interesting as far as a one serving goes. That's 2 tablespoons. Your sodium content is only 12% per 2 tablespoons. So we normally eat about 6 tablespoons per person. So you're looking at about half a day's salt. Of course, now the nutrients are in the bottle contains 6% vitamin C, and that's about it. There are only total carbs of 6%. So pretty much you're just doing this to flavor food so you can make it edible. If you've been out and hunting, you've been out there grabbing up some game, and you've got some meat out there that you've had preserved, you're going to want to put something on it to give a little bit of flavor, add to the taste, maybe take out the gaminess of it. Sweet baby back braise or sweet baby raise. It's pretty good. Like I said, it's gourmet. It's excellent. You can taste the barbecueness of it. If you want to add a little kick to it, Tabasco sauce is great. Remember to give it a good shaking. The way I like to store this in my pantry is upside down because I want to make sure over the time that it's about the first 6 months, I want to make sure that seal's made, and then I'll just go ahead and rotate it over and stackable and put it in the pantry. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually get a marker and either mark on the top the quantity I've gotten that time, and I use color coding to tell the different times of year. That way, when I look upon my stock, of course, if you've seen a previous video, that's hard to do sometimes because it's a mess down there. But what I do is I'll put the numbers on the top or somewhere on it, and on my database, my spreadsheet, I'll have this bottle, how much it cost me per unit, where I purchased it from, this expiration date or whatever it says on the use by date, and then put it in my stores. Future plans for this coming year are to make my way downstairs and start organizing that mess to get it to where it's like some of the folks out there who I've seen have their SHTF pantries well organized. They know what they've got. They could go down at a moment's notice and see what they have to have. That's one item. The other item I like to show you is canned goods. We all know about canned goods. They have a long, long, long shelf life. This one here is Pennsylvania Dutchman uh, stems and pieces of mushrooms. They're actually they're drained, so the weight of the drain is 4 ounces. Best if used by 05/13/2019. And of course, I always look at sodium, and it's about 16% based on a serving size of a half a cup with the liquid. So the liquid in there also adds to that sodium content. What's nice about these guys, all of the can openers I own cut along this edge. It doesn't cut into it. I really hate to use P38s in that military style can opener because while you're doing this, you're introducing any kind of garbage that if you don't keep these lids clean, that stuff can get on there. And I don't know a lot about you folks, out there in the South or anywhere in the United States during the spring, summer, and fall, particularly wintertime, if you've got a lot of grains laying around unsealed or have the smell of grain, you're going to get little four-legged critters with long tails running around your food. A lot of times they'll sit on top of these cans and do their cleanliness maintenance, and they'll pee or poo on these lids, and then next thing you know, if somebody comes by and scrapes the top of it, but that poo and that pee residue are still on there, and then beknownst to known to you, you end up taking a can opener and going like this and introducing that material onto your food. I always highly recommend opening the bottom of a can. Well, if you can, always keep your cans clean. When you take a can out of storage, inspect it. That's the first thing. Look for if there's any bulging of the bottom or top. Look for any breaching of the can itself. Tap on it. If you hear a hollow sound, it might not be a good thing for you to hear. The other one is clean this off with a nice clean rag or something you can dispose of. If you got access to alcohol or handy wipes, even antibiotic wrap, tabs or something to keep that off there. Because, like I said, those little guys will just want to run around. Now, our little friends from the insect world will also migrate up onto here and make their business be known to you. When you go long-term storage, there's always two things to remember. Eat what you store what you eat. If you find yourself out there in the world and you're looking around your grocery store or your box stores and you see an opportunity to save some money, by all means, go down and grab it. But make sure that that's something you have in your diet. The worst thing can happen to you when you're on one of these, I always call it a weekend shit hit the fan episode we like to do about once every 6 months drill, where we turn off the power to the house. There's nothing for the person to do except figure out how to have light. We know we've got all the goodies we've got, but you want to go out there and start thinking outside the box and say, okay, now you're in a moment. What do? Well, you take a note of what you got. If you've already done your inventory and you can gain access to your certain electronic components, you can look all that up. But let's say all that's gone because of an EMP from the sun, or one of our guests around the world decide to want to play with us, or just the aging infrastructure that hasn't been repaired yet fails, and you're sitting here in the dark. Matter of fact, I guess 100,000 folks right now are sitting in the dark because their local municipalities didn't clear the trees, or the snow and ice was so heavy, these old power lines gave in. And saying that, I wish those folks the best, because I know what it's like to be cold and have no power until I got my generator about 30 years ago, and that never happened ever again. Also, in that mind, if you got generators, make sure you buy all the goodies that go with it. Extra oil, your extra air filters. Make sure you got your gasoline preserve. Store your gas in small quantities versus large quantities. Use what you don't use in about 6 months. I always brag about fuel lasting a very long time, but that all depends on how well you take care of it. And if you introduce oxygen into your fuel supply, it's just going to make it degrade that much quicker, especially this ethanol that's now in the marketplace. When you talk about canned goods, same with canned goods. If you store these in a nice wet environment where there's a lot of moisture, these metal cans will tendency to rust. My basement is about a 15% humidity. I know it's very dry from the last time our water heater failed over the Thanksgiving holiday. That water that came out of it was on the concrete. It didn't stay there very long, being that the concrete's porous. And we also had some work done on the house before we moved in for a downstairs plumbing. That water flowed right into that excavation hole that was covered up by a very porous mortar material, and that water went away. The way I also know it was dry is because the boxes that were damaged, that got wet within 2 days, were completely bone dry. If you've got a nice cool basement like that, you're very fortunate, and thank the people behind you, or thank the builders, or just thank the stars that you've got a nice dry basement, because I know there are probably hundreds of thousands of Americans and people around the world that's a dungeon that's dark, damp, and dingy, and I wouldn't doubt you've got mold growing somewhere. Mold is almost like cancer. It stays hidden. You don't know when it's out there. Next thing you know, you're sick and you're trying to figure out why, and it was from mold poisoning or whatever got into your respiratory system by breathing it down there. or you had a lot of critters down there making their business all over your food, and now you're sick with a respiratory problem. You don't know why. If you've got a really dark, dingy, dark dungeon, damp, disgusting, don't store food down there. Just consider it off limits. I don't recommend an attic either because of the temperature changes. If you've got temperatures going up and down, that's bad for this food. It won't last very long in this can. And in saying that, that old good old backup salt. So remember that salt is always a good thing to have. Also about canned goods, if the label on this guy is affixed with a type of glue that could either be thermal or it could be water based. Thermal, basically, as long as there's no lot of heat exposed or moisture or any kind of movement, this can will stay in this package a pert near forever without any damage coming to this label. A lot of people out there recommend you use marine varnish by just simply coating it with one of these rubberized tool brushes or rubber coated tool paint brushes, and just give it a good coat. That's all good and fine. Just remember, when you try to stay away from the lid with that uh, type of marine lacquer. Another one is to put these in a container. You don't have to be food grade. If you've got any of these paint buckets, or if you make it down to your local bakery and you happen to strike up a friendship with one of the bakers and they let you have those white flour or frosting style containers, grab them. And those things are almost like gold around here. Every time I try to get one, I keep getting told no. I was beaten ahead by somebody else. And also, if you can put these in a one of these organizer, I've seen them out there where you buy the organizer first in, last out kind of stuff where you can feed through them. I've got one downstairs. I wasn't able to show it because I couldn't get to it because of the boxes I had to move around when the water heater failed. But that's always another way to go. And remember, if you've got these guys and they are out of their expiration date, that doesn't mean you got to throw them away. The world is round. We know that's true. When a can goes into the production and it comes out, this can, if it was taken care of and done properly, and a lot of companies take pride in saying that they've got the good housekeeping seal or they've got certain accolades for being a good cannery. They're not going to allow their cans to become contaminated by whatever they've done. You occasionally hear recalls about somebody putting something in these things and then sneaking them through. Uh, if you're paranoid and you're afraid that the bad guys gotten into these canneries, well, you got yourself a valid reason to be worried, but I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. It is what it is, but as long as you cook this food above 132 or 212, meat 164 for a constant period of time, you're going to kill off all the bad things, other than a metal or a piercing object placed in it. If you find any type of anatomy of whatever, obviously don't eat it, don't consume it. If you're doing this as a cycling for your pantry and you do find these things, there's always a phone number somewhere on this container or the container to contact the manufacturer. Don't hesitate to contact them. Matter of fact, while you're doing that, get your lawyer on speed dial and let the media know, because there's somebody else out there who's probably got the same thing going on that hadn't said nothing, or they're waiting for that ticking time bomb that they've got stored to open it up and find it's got somebody's appendage in it, or creature crawler, or that somebody said one time that they found a part of a paper clip in something, and I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Paper clip, that's like having a dinosaur walk into your house and make your rice dinner for you. It ain't gonna happen. So something's not right with that comment. When you all go back to canning, Napoleon was one of the smart generals out there, leaders that said, listen, an army, operates on its belly, and we made our food from there. So the history of canning, go on back and take a look. You'll learn something again. If you learn something once a day, you've learned something. If you don't, you haven't. I want to wish everybody a happy new year and a prosperous one for everybody out there. Keep the faith. What you got to do is what you have to do. If it sounds stupid, well, you know what? Go ahead and say so, and I'll respond to it. I'm a person of open-mindedness. We just had a discussion this morning about it in my own home about how to be open-minded, and I was the last one to even argue about that. But you're your own person. You know what you need to do. You want to do two things: keep your family safe and keep your country safe because it's the only one you got. Happy New Year, people.